Do you want to wake up feeling like you're stepping into who you're meant to be, into the best possible version of you? What if I told you that the key to your best life, health, and happiness are all around you? You just have to find what works for you. I'm Hope Pedraza, and I believe that there isn't just one way to live a healthy and meaningful life, and that all you need is a little inspiration to make changes that last from the inside out. Each week, I'll be sharing tangible tips and inspirational interviews to help you on your journey. These are the steps to take to improve your life and live with purpose. This is Hopeful and Wholesome. Hey y'all, welcome back to the show and welcome back to my series, Aligned by Design, Unveiling my journey with human design and my innate intelligence. And we're moving right along here through the series. So far, I've really dove into how I've been navigating my own human design, how it's helping me learn more about me and this whole kind of self-discovery journey and how I'm using it in my business and just integrating all the things. And so in the last episode, I guess, in the last episode when I really am diving into my own personal health journey, how it's really helping me learn more about my body, right? This sense of body awareness and body wisdom that we all have access to. And so in the last episode, I talked about kind of the before and the during, right? Like what I was doing before, what I was tolerating, how I was treating my body, my relationship with my body, and how that was all related to, everything else, my health, my body, my relationships, all that was tied together. And it really all boils down to just me not being connected with myself or really knowing myself. And I also shared what changed and what was kind of the pivotal moments plural, that helped me really shift that. And so in this episode, I just want to tie all of that together, talking a little bit more about like present day and how all of that, this discovery through my human design and my innate intelligence, all of that is helping me now and really helping me be authentically, unapologetically me, like I mentioned in the last episode. And so I think a big piece of this, and it really is a combination of me honing in on my human design and listening to my intuition, being more connected to my intuition with my innate intelligence and also work with my cycle. I'll say that, but I'll talk about that in the next episode. But I think just managing my energy, how like my energy output physically, mentally, emotionally, like all of those parts of energy is a big piece. It's delegating and asking for help. And this is a big one for me. This is really hard because for a long time, first of all, I felt like I had something to prove. And so it was, I can do it on myself and watch me do it on myself. And really it was like, watch me like burn my body and my mental health into the ground. And so delegating, and here's the thing, this can be tricky for manifesting generators because as I mentioned in the first episode, and if you're doing my masterclass series, I talked about this in the first session of my masterclass series, manifesting generators, we have the energy, right? We have the energy to do it and to do it all. But the thing is, just because you have the energy to do it doesn't mean you should, right? There's a difference between can and should. And so for a long time, I was not distinguishing between the two. And so it was, I have the energy, so I'm going to do it, right? This is where we start to meet the resistance, right? And first of all, because we are sacral beings as a Manny Gen, or those of you listening who are generators, we're sacral beings. And when we're not following those sacral nudges and following what's lighting us up, then that's when we start to meet resistance. And you're either going to not be doing a good job at the thing you're doing because you're really not going to be, fully into it. You're going to start resenting what it is that you're doing, the job that you're doing or whatever. It's going to start affecting your physical body, right? Because we're going to meet this resistance. And when we are meeting this resistance, as I mentioned before, this is where dis-ease starts to show up in the body. It's going to show up physically because we have all these thoughts and emotions about what it is that we're doing. And those thoughts and emotions are going to end up manifesting itself on our physical body. And then the other thing is, this is the other way that I see it as a manifesting generator. When I don't want to say wasting, I don't really think it's wasting time, but when we're spending time on things that aren't lighting us up and we're forcing ourselves to do things because we either think we, quote, should be doing them, or it's like a control freak thing where it's like, I'm just going to do it on myself, which, that was me, I was guilty of that. We're also holding ourselves back from what we could be doing, right? From the potentiality of what could be done by us doing the things that do light us up. Do you see what I mean? We're holding ourselves back from the potential that is within us because we're doing things that we really shouldn't be doing because it's not lighting us up and it's not meant for us. So the delegation piece is huge. And when I finally started to recognize that and realize that, and the other thing is, regardless of human design, like setting human design aside, it's when you're building a business, nobody grows to a really successful business by themselves. Like it doesn't happen. So, the people who are the most successful and the people, the millionaires and the billionaires that you read about and you see you doing interviews and talking about how they built their business and all that, they were smart because they hired people who were better at things than they were, right? The things that they either didn't love or weren't good at, they hired people to do them because they were better at it or they liked it more. So that's the other piece of it. So all of these things, these pieces kind of coming together for me. Delegation was a big one. And delegating things that, either A, I wasn't good at or wasn't enjoying, or it was just like I wanted to put my energy, and it wasn't necessarily like I'm just giving all the things I don't want to do to other people. It wasn't really about that. It was there's other things that I enjoy more and other things that are really lighting me up that I know I could put really good energy into these things and make these things really thrive. And then these things that I could be kind of like, then I can delegate those. So the other piece of this, delegating, asking for help, and it's recognizing when the right people show up and being open and willing to receive the help that shows up and makes itself available to you. And this lesson is for anybody and everybody. The asking for help piece, the same thing with the delegation. I think the other piece of this that was kind of the resistance for me was I did feel the need that I needed to prove myself. And I did feel like I wasn't worthy enough. Remember, I told you, I talked about how the worthiness piece shows up a lot for the 3-5 mainly because of the 3 line. The worthiness piece was a big thing for me because I felt like, well, if I wasn't doing it on myself and working like really hard and busting my butt and, killing myself doing it, then I wasn't worthy of success or, the business that I desired. And so which is, it's BS. Honestly, we all know that. So the delegating, the ask for help, the recognizing when the right people show up, that's a huge one. And then managing my energy in other ways. So my physical energy as well, which that is physical energy as well. It's mental and physical energy. But the physical energy in terms of like what I was doing physically, like teaching. There was years where I was teaching, and I say years, like I'm not just talking about like, oh, right when I started, for years, I was teaching anywhere from 4 to 6 classes a day. And that was pretty much every day. Minus Sunday, I didn't teach as many. And then Saturdays, I would do like 3. So 5 days in a row, I would teach 4 to 6, sometimes 6 classes a day. That's how many I would teach some days. And then on the weekends, so I was teaching for actually starting out, I was teaching 7 days a week. And then eventually I was like, okay, I'll give myself, a day off from teaching on Sundays. But then I was still killing myself trying to do a workout on Sunday. It was ridiculous. So the managing my energy piece also was a physical piece and recognizing that I can give up some of that. And, there's a lot of things that were attached to that because at the time when I was doing all of that, I was still going through my whole self-discovery journey on loving my body, like my self-love journey was still it was on shaky ground. And so a lot of that was I had to work through those pieces too. And I wasn't even realizing how much expending physical energy was also affecting all my other types of energy, right? The mental, emotional, the spiritual pieces, like all of this is connected. I didn't have the wherewithal at the time to really put all these pieces together, but managing my energy physically, what I was outputting physically, and then creating more space, not feeling like I have to fill up every hour of the day, every day. And this is something that I still have to catch myself with. And I would say this year, 2023, I have been really intentional about this. And it started off pretty rocky. So the first quarter of the year, really until probably into the second quarter of the year, I told myself at the beginning of that was kind of like one of the goals for the year. Like I don't really do resolutions, but I have, goals I set for myself. And that was one of the goals where I was saying, okay, I want to create more space in the day, and creating more space is going to allow me more creativity, right? Taking care of myself, doing something I actually like enjoy doing rather than just working all the time, right? That's a tough one to break. But when I did finally, things started to click and I was able to create a little bit more space in my day, I was able to recognize how that was affecting my mental and emotional health, my relationships, right? And just that ability to be present and valuing presence and taking time to do little things. And it's not even about planning anything crazy important or like super outrageous. It's not about planning anything crazy. It's really just space. Like, do I have space in my schedule where I could be like, I have some time. Do I want to sit outside? Do I want to do a meditation? Do I want to read a book? Do I want to read an article? Do I want to take my daughter for a walk? Right? Like just giving myself like, oh, I have like freedom. Remember, the freedom thing has been a really common thing. It's the creating space for me was how can I create more freedom in my day? I felt like for so long, just been chained to my business. And my husband and I had a lot of conversations about this because, he was frustrated because I was frustrated. He's frustrated with me, or he's like, if this is what you want to do, you want to go to be, chained to a desk, then go back to a regular job, right? Like the entrepreneur thing is supposed to be the ticket to freedom, right? This is now, yes, you have responsibilities and you have things, but it's supposed to allow more freedom and flexibility. And you're still acting like he's like, you're the boss. Like you make the schedule, you make your own schedule. So you have the freedom to do what you want to do. If you want to take days off, you want to take time off, you want to create space. Like, so it took a while for things to click, but that was a big one, is creating space, taking care of my body and actually listening to it. That was a big one. And really tuning into my intuition. That's something that I'm really focusing on, as I've mentioned in a few of the episodes now. This is really something that I'm being really intentional about, is listening into my body and my intuition and what it's telling me, and listening to the signs and the signals in my body. And now that I've kind of come to the other side of this self-love journey where I can honor like where my body is, that there are certain limitations that I have to honor sometimes when it's like, okay, this is hurting and this is hurting, like let's take some time off, or let's change what you planned on doing because I'm not feeling so hot today and I'm feeling tired, right? Just being able to listen to it. The other big thing for me is being more understanding and more patient with my husband and my kids, because I understand how their energy works. So I've done my kids and my husband's human design, and I know their human design, and I haven't studied as extensively as I have my own, but I've studied the most important parts, just enough for me to really be able to honor their energy and understand. And I'm telling you, me and my husband have talked through it a lot, because I constantly, I had this one moment where I did this, basically did like a reading for him, and I just like vomited all this information on him. And we got done. He was like, I think I heard the first like 15 minutes and then I zoned out. Like, cool. So since then, it's been this little pieces at a time where I'm understanding, and things will come up, and it's cool because things will come up and it's like, oh yeah, like this is like I mentioned when I talked about profiles, his profile, like when this new job opportunity came up, like, oh yeah, the profile. So I'm able to teach him things a little bit at a time, and he's really able to understand the little pieces, and it really clicks for him. But it's helping me to understand too and be more patient, because I have a whole different level of understanding. And the same thing with my kids, like my son, for example. My son is a projector. And for my projectors out there, you're such special beings. And if you're doing my masterclass series, I talk a lot about that in there, and you can go check that out and listen in. I'm sure I'll talk about it more eventually here, different specific types, but projectors have such a special aura. And it's funny because when I did his human design, I'm like, of course he's a projector. It was just so obvious after that. And so honoring where sometimes I feel like, oh, why is he being so needy? And why is he like, he has such a different energy. And granted, he's also a kid, right? So there's pieces of that, but they really do have a very sensitive aura, and they just see things so much differently. And even before I did his human design, my husband and I were like, I just feel like he's an old soul, like he's seen things. And then when I did looked at his chart, I'm like, oh my gosh, because that's what I think, projectors and reflectors, I really think that they are old souls, and they've seen things. They've seen some things. And I just see that. And so just having this level of understanding, when I tell you that it'll change your relationships, it'll change your relationships. If you have the ability to do your partner, your spouse, your significant other, and your kids, if you have kids, it's going to change everything. And then if you run a business, you have a business, you're an entrepreneur, and you have team members, you have staff, it can really change your dynamic of your team too, because you're able to, like I mentioned, you're able to understand each other's energy, but it's going to help in how you assign tasks and delegate things, because you're going to see where people's strengths are and who really should be doing what based on their strengths and their energetic needs, and how things are going to flow in between you. Like it just changes everything. It changes everything. And the other thing about speaking of being patient, the other thing about patience for me is being patient with the process of life, not feeling like I have to rush everything. Not saying I don't ever have those feelings, because there are plenty of times where I'm like, oh, just come on already, right? We all have those. But the patience with the process of life and taking things more slowly and waiting for the right answers and the right people to show up rather than forcing it to happen. And that's been a huge lesson for me. And I think, and even this one really has hit me more recently than anything. And it's probably been since the summer. So many things have happened in the past few months, and they've just hit my psyche on a whole different level. I think the combination of my retreat to Africa, which was just a completely soul shifting experience for me, coming back and like integrating all of that. I don't want to say it was a challenge, because it sounds like it was a bad way, but I think I'm still integrating it. Like there's still things that are coming up, and I can, do a meditation or look at a picture and new things come up and new things are being pulled out of me. I think there's things are still integrating. And then it's shifting who I want to speak to and really who my programs are for, as I mentioned in episodes before, and shifting to really focusing on female entrepreneurs. And obviously, I'm still working with women who are seeking ideal health for themselves, wellness on every level, right? Physical, spiritual, mental, emotional, all of that. But my focus is really tuning into entrepreneurs and the needs of female entrepreneurs in this capacity. So making that shift. And then this was about a month ago, I did this social media detox, like work detox, for the first time ever, surprisingly. That really shifted things. And I did it because I felt like I needed clarity on some things. And this is one of the things that came off the tail end of that. And I had some inklings of things that I wanted to do, and I felt like I wanted clarity. And I have to admit that after the detox, I thought I would get to the end. It was for 10 days. I wanted to do it for 10 days. And at the end, I thought I would have like this list of aha moments and like visions. God visited me in my dreams or my meditation or something, and all these things are going to fall into place. And the Monday comes around and I'm like, I felt kind of funky. I felt like I really wasn't excited to like jump back into the grind. I wasn't excited to jump back on social media because I thought I would have like so much to share and all these lessons I wanted to give to the world and blah, 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 all these things. And none of that happened. So I sat with that for a couple days, and I posted a couple times. I feel like I quote should, right? There's me shoulding on things. And I wasn't excited about it. So of course, nothing I was posting was really landing because the energy behind it was bleh. After a couple days, after sitting with that, I realized that, and I did a post about this. So if you read the post, this sounds familiar, but I realized that I have been pushing and forcing things for so long. Well, I wanted to do this detox. I had been thinking about it for a while, but I've been getting like signs, right? I've been seeing things and hearing things. I had mentors say things to me, and it happened, 3 or 4 times. And after 3 times for me, it's like, okay, you that's just like God shouting at you. So you probably need to listen. And so I was like, okay, this is what's coming up. So I'm going to do it. For me, initially, there was an outcome I was looking for right at the end. It wasn't like, oh, let me do this and just be. There was like, no, I'm going to do this so that I can XYZ, right? There was like an outcome on the other side that I was looking for. And rather than going into it without expectation and without attachment to the outcome or what the outcome is going to look like or what it's going to look like on the other side. And I realized how freaking long I've been doing that and how many instances I've been doing that where like I have these well intended plans, right? To do things, I have goals, whatever, but it's all for this outcome that I want to force this specific outcome to happen, right? It's just being so attached to the outcome. It's force, right? It's rather than absorbing the stillness and the silence and the quiet and the in-between is what I mentioned in my post when I talked about this, the in-between, and really sitting and being okay with that, like being okay with the discomfort of being in the in-between. I've been forcing things to happen. And this is, to my own detriment, because there's things that happen where it's, you learn things the hard way because you force things to happen that you shouldn't have been forcing, right? Instead of waiting to respond per my strategy as a mani-gen. So I realized this after this detox, I sat with it, and this is what started coming through for me. And then I'm recognizing, okay, this is what I was meant to learn, right? This is the lesson that I was meant to learn.
that I've been forcing and pushing and trying to make things happen rather than allowing life to happen to me. That's not how it's meant to be. And for me as a Manny Gen, I'm meant to follow the breadcrumbs with a little attachment to the outcome. And that I talked about that in the last episode. And I think that's true for most of us is, when you're too attached to the outcome, you're forcing things to happen. It typically doesn't go how you plan, right? But for a sacral being, it's even more crucial because we're following what lights us up in the moment. We're just kind of going from breadcrumb to breadcrumb, right? From one step to the next step. And we don't really know where the steps are going. So after this detox, this is where all of this is really stemming from. So in essence, I did have something come out on the other side of the detox because here I am doing however many episodes I'm doing in this series, sharing, bearing my soul, right? In this podcast series and bringing this new program to life. So things did happen. But for me, it wasn't in the process of me doing something just so something else would happen. Do you know what I mean? It's being attached to the outcome. I'm doing this thing because I want this to happen. It was me sitting with the discomfort that comes from being in the in-between and the waiting for the right answers and the right people to show up rather than forcing it to happen. And this really is the challenge for generator types, manifesting generators and generators, because there is this in-between. Some people call it the gap. There is an in-between sometimes when you're waiting on things to respond to. And we start to meet resistance when we jump the gun and we start initiating things without waiting to respond. And I'm finally learning that. And I think the past few months have been the biggest lesson for me in that. And that's what's bringing me here to you to talk to you. It's a lesson for all of us in detaching from the outcome in the sense that we don't have to have this picture of what we think, how we think things should happen. Now we have in this, and I think this is the beauty of co-creation, right? With God, with the universe, the co-creation process, we have a goal, we have a desire, right? We have a desire, we have something we want. And I mentioned this in one of the other episodes that if you desire something, then it's meant for you, or you wouldn't have the desire, but it may not look like you have it pictured in your head. The way it comes about, the way it happens, the final outcome of that thing may look completely different than the vision you have in your head, which only means it's going to be better. Because when you're praying for things, when you're asking for things, when you're talking to God or the universe about things, it's basically you're asking for this or something better. And that's something my husband and I talk about all the time, because you have the desire, then it's meant for you, but it may look different. But if it looks different, that's because it's better, because God had something better in mind for you. And it's going to show up in a different way, but better. When we're so attached to the outcome, we're really blocking that creative process between you and God and the universe of these things happen, because we're only okay if it looks like this. And if we're not okay with it looking like this, then it's not going to happen, right? Then God's like, oh, well, okay, if it has to look like that, then never mind. Like that's not how it was going to play out. So do you see what I mean? You're really limiting this co-creation process because you're not allowing the trillions of possibilities and the way this thing could play out for you. And that's something that I'm really stepping into and learning to be okay. And because it is uncomfortable. And that's the other thing. And that's why we don't like it. We don't like the waiting because it's uncomfortable. We don't know what's going to happen, right? Is my bank account going to run dry? Is my business going to shut down? It's like there's all these what ifs. But if we're able to let go of the what ifs, trust that God has a plan, and there's universal things happening in the background that are preparing the things that you've been asking for, these desires you have in your soul, and being okay in that in between and trusting and honoring that space. I think the other thing too is I said this to one of my mentors, I was really starting to see this kind of in between space as a gift, and the universe is giving me space. Right. I'm getting space from doing all the things and pushing so hard. And it's this shift that's happening. And I could see that as this scary, stressful, anxiety ridden thing that's just going to drive me to the edge of going bonkers. Or I could see it as a gift of, okay, I'm getting time right now where I can slow down. And I can go inward and I can focus on like more of the inner work, right? And I can tune in and I can listen to what's there and I can tune into my intuition and all that process, right? This is a huge lesson for me. And this is what I'm stepping into. And this is what I'm leading. I'm going to lead into this next year with these intentions, because I am at some point over the past few months, I've just come to peace with that. And I don't know if there was like a specific pivotal moment that was like, I just think it was kind of a culmination of things and different realizations that I've had from all of these things that I'm talking about, these lessons from these experiences. And here I am teaching it to you and sharing it with you. So I share all of these lessons to help you kind of see what this looks like for you, to make changes within yourself with listening to your body and the signals and the signs and reading, understanding your energy and honoring your energy, knowing when you're meeting resistance, understanding your human design to help you with all of these pieces, even just on a basic level. Again, if you haven't jumped into my masterclass series, I highly recommend you jumping into it. And while, yes, we talk about business in the series because it's geared toward entrepreneurs, even if you're not, it's still going to help you understand your human design and how to integrate some of the pieces and at least understanding it on a basic level, like the important pieces that you can really hone in on now to start integrating now and knowing how to implement it all. So I'm going to have I have a guide that I'm making that is going to accompany all of these episodes, and it's going to have some questions for contemplation, like some journal prompts, that kind of thing, to help you with your chart. Because I know I'm talking about my chart. That was the point of this series, is honing it on my story, my journey. But I want it to help you and you being able to integrate it in yours. And so I'm going to have a PDF that's for you to download. And if you're not already on my email list, then I will put a link in the show notes for you to download. After I get to the end of these episodes, I have to make sure all of these episodes go out first. And so I will go back and put these. So if you're listening after, these have all gone out, then you'll see the link in the show notes because I'll put it in after, but the link is going to be there to help you be able to put all of these pieces together with your human design chart in your body. And the other piece of this, of course, is my program that's coming on the tail end of that, the innately aligned entrepreneur program that's coming out. And the doors to this are going to open in the middle of October. So it's on the 14th is when it opens, but I have information below if you want to jump on the wait list so that at least get information about it. I'll send it to the people on the wait list first. And really, it's just going 20 layers deeper with all of these things that I'm talking about. And so all of these lessons that I've learned from diving into my human design, my innate intelligence, my cycle, which we'll talk about in the next episode, all of these pieces I'm going to help you do in your body, in your life, in your business, in your relationships, how all of this ties into you. So you can have all of these incredible takeaways and transformations and self-discovery moments like I have. And it's going to revolutionize your life and how you're doing everything in your business, everything in your relationships, your life, your wellness, all of these things. It's going to change everything. And so if you're really wanting to know that it's really piquing your interest to know really how to tune into your human design on this level and tuning into these intuitive pieces that are within you to help bring this out and better your business. Because I'm going to talk about in the program, because it is for entrepreneurs, the innately aligned entrepreneur. I'm going to talk about how to integrate this all into your business as well, like how you're showing up in your business, how you're conducting things in your business, right? And it like strategically, marketing, sales, strategy, automations, launching programs, creating programs, content, all of these things, all of these pieces of your business will benefit when you have all of these other pieces in place, because you're understanding yourself at this whole different level. So when you're creating and you're implementing all of these things and these aspects of your business, it's going to land in a totally different way. And when you're able to really tune into your cycle, which I'll talk about in the next episode, this is going to change how you do business every month. It's going to change how you're managing your energy and how you're really able to use this as your superpower. So we're going to dive into that piece too. So you can click the link below and you can get on the wait list, and it'll also put you on my email list. And so you can get the link to the guide that I'll have at the end of this series. So you can have that to kind of contemplate and meditate on and journal with and all the things to help you really pull out some really cool pieces within yourself. That being said, I will see you in the next episode, which will be the last episode of this series, and we'll wrap up there. See y'all next time.
Thanks for listening to Hopeful and Wholesome, y'all. If you found value in this week's episode, please subscribe on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcast and leave a review to let me know what you thought. I'd love to know what you find useful in these episodes so I can know how to provide the most value I can to my listeners. And if you have topics you'd like to know more about, I'd love to hear those as well. So shoot me a message on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. It's at the Hope Pedraza, or you can visit my website, hopefulandwholesome.com. Thanks, y'all.